Zhou, who is also known as the Stone Demon, is an overpowered martial artist who has spent his whole life studying how to beat people with his bare hands, and yet, he still can't bag himself a wife. His story begins when he announces his presence to the world by entering a martial artist competition which gathers the nation's sects. The Stone Demon has already beaten a considerable number of contenders to reach the final rounds of the competition. He reveals to be from the Ren Tian sect when introducing himself to his next opponent. Zhou is faced with a swordmaster who painfully puts down his sword when he finds out that Zhou doesn't fight with a weapon. The guy is looking to make it a fair contest. The crowd goes crazy after witnessing such sportsmanship. The two fighters take their stance. The master makes the first move, but he slips on his blade and hits the splits like a gymnast after sensing Zhou's tiger aura. The master quivers in pain as he acknowledges Zhou's strength. The fangirls from his sect rush onto the stage to make sure that their senior is okay. They are upset with Zhou for defeating their guy as they snatch the blade and leave the stage. The judges announce Zhou as the winner, and the next contender steps up. He is confused when his opponent pulls out some string and makes a net with it. The Stone Demon wastes no time and takes it away from him, but this leads to a tug of war between the two, which causes the thread to snap. The opponent falls to the ground devastated because the rope was given to him by his wife. She makes a swift appearance on the stage by using the crowd as her stepping stone, as if she was on Takeshi's castle. She politely concedes on behalf of her husband before comforting the mortified man. Zhou tries to apologize as the couple leave, but she makes it clear that he will never be forgiven as tears run down her face. She even goes as far as to curse him to be single forever. The Stone Demon is declared the winner, but his next match doesn't even start because his opponents are disqualified when it comes to the judge's attention that they are a duo, which is against the rules. The pair are not bothered by the verdict because they seem to love each other, and they express this as they make comments about how Zhou has never been in a relationship, judging from the way he is looking at them. The Stone Demon is announced as the winner of the tournament. Later that evening, he notices that a lot of couples are enjoying the post-competition celebration. Zhou is confused that all the losers seem to be happier than him. His hope of further acknowledgement gets crushed when one of the judges comes over to tease him for being alone. He cries because he's the best martial artist around but feels so lonely. The following day, Zhou gets some tea and feels like the crowd at the competition didn't like him, but he has won honor for his sect, so he tries to find comfort in that. However, experiencing the pain of being single is still eating away at him. He thinks back to how Grandmaster Ren made him obsessed with martial arts by telling him that he's the future of the sect because he was a genius. This made him drill his juniors with training while his Grandmaster used to play board games. Zhou is sure that this is why his subordinates all fear him. He gets up to rush back to the temple to explain things to his Grandmaster, but he pauses in his track when he hears Yu calling to him. He turns to find her tied upside down, surrounded by the Black Axe Gang. They give him a hostile vibe when he tries to ask them what the issue is. The residents scurry into their homes and close the doors when they sense the trouble coming. Yu headbutts and breaks free from her bondage when one of the criminals eats her pastry. She continues to beat him till the criminals decide to move their interaction to a more discreet location. They are confronted by the gang leader called Lu. Zhou assumes that they are monks based on his bald head. Lu reveals that his beef with Yu is because she broke their weapons. He also gets annoyed when he figures that Zhou thinks that they are monks. His minions get excited as they ask their boss to show the Stone Demon his unique skill. Lu tries to display his strength by uprooting a small tree, but he almost injures his back. His subordinates save him from embarrassment by pointing him to an even smaller one. As he pulls it out, Zhou uproots a huge one to their shock. Lu doesn't want trouble and pretends to be a monk. This allows him and his men to escape with their lives as they accept the tree as a gift. Zhou buys Yu a meat bun to replace the one she lost since they are acquaintances. The girl is very grateful and informs him that she has made him another weapon. He reminds her that he uses kung fu and pleads with her to stop making weapons for him. She doesn't listen and presents a metal hula hoop which has blades on it. Yu demonstrates how it can attack enemies from all sides. She vomits from the motion of hula hooping. Zhou realizes that she got the steel to make the weapon from Lu and his men's axes. That is why they were so angry at her. He feels terrible for helping the bad person in this situation. As soon as Lu and his gang get to safety, he expresses his frustration that they had to retreat after losing their weapons while getting mocked for his bald head. The boss promises to get his revenge, but his speech is interrupted by Yuan, the illiterate swordsman. He also calls Lu a monk as he asks for directions to their temple. He wants to spend the night there. The bandits get annoyed and surround him for calling their boss a monk. They are all dumbfounded when Yuan misreads the character on the back of the tops. One of the criminals tries to correct him, but Yuan shuts him up by landing a devastating kick. Lu takes great offense and orders his men to take him out. He recognizes the illiterate swordsman as soon as he sees the red blade. Yuan has been traveling around the country challenging strong warriors, and he currently has a perfect win record. The boss is also knocked back after his subordinates take a beating. He concedes and tells the wandering swordsman about Joe in hopes that they will weaken each other during their fight so that he can swoop in and take his revenge on them both. Meanwhile, at the sect, Master Ren puts Xiang and some other subordinates on watch duty because he doesn't want Joe to catch him playing board games upon his arrival. The Grandmaster meets up with his non-warrior friends to show his skills. Soon after, Joe and Yu return, and they are greeted by an excited Xiang who clearly has a crush on Joe. She also tries to delay them to allow the other lookouts to inform their master of his star pupil's arrival. Sadly, their signal is a little too obvious as they set off some fireworks that catches Joe's attention. The lookouts fight among themselves for such a blunder. Things get worse when Joe rushes to Ren's side when he hears a cry. He busts into the building to find their master getting beaten by his non-martial arts associates for cheating. Ren tries to play it cool like they were doing nothing as he welcomes his prodigy, but Joe chokes him with the hula hoop weapon because he knows what his master was doing. Meanwhile, Yuan the illiterate strikes again as he mixes up the Ren Tian sect with a different one. He goes in to challenge them, but the master of the school refuses to back down and orders his disciples to beat him to death. Unfortunately, they all get defeated by Yuan. The batted master tries to explain to him that he has completely misread the name of their sect. This triggers the swordsman to give him an explosive slap. The subordinates plead with their master to get the illiterate out of their institution. The master falls to his knees and concedes that they are the ones who are not educated, as they misspelled the plaque on their temple wrongly. He even expresses his gratitude to Yuan for correcting them. The idiot swordsman falls for the fake admission. The master is dumbfounded when Yuan gives him a copy of his nonsensical novel that he intends to publish. The boss of the sect commends his book just to get him to move along. As soon as he leaves, the master is livid to learn that Lu was the one who lured that fool to their doorstep. He believes the bandit leader is trying to play tricks on him and feels like he needs to defend his honor as a man, so he rounds up a group of his men so that they can get revenge. In the interim, Lu and his criminals reach the Ren Tian sect, but stay hidden. The bandit leader hopes to attack after the two fighters have worn themselves out. One of his men reminds him that their weapons was destroyed. All the while, Joe sits on the cliff, and from behind, Ren thinks that he is sobbing, but when he gets closer, he is stunned to see his prodigy stuffing his face. The stone demon opens up about how lonely and empty he feels even after winning the tournament. He is surprised that the losers had more fun than him. Ren suggests that he go on a date since he's going to be 20 soon. Joe starts to freak out at the thought of marriage when it gets brought up. Their conversation is interrupted when Joe is informed that someone is looking for him. By the time Joe comes to meet his visitor, the ladies are all smitten by Yuan's looks. The old ladies are willing to risk it all for him, while some of the younger women drool over the warrior that stands before them. Xiang is not under his spell and calls him a toy boy who doesn't compare to her Joe. Yuan challenges the stone demon to a fight as soon as he comes out. The swordsman makes a mistake when he concludes that Joe is the master of the sect. Ren doesn't mind the idea of that happening because that leaves him free to play around. Yuan doesn't waste time and draws his sword to attack Joe, but the stone demon dodges his strikes and even stops the blade with his bare hands to end the first exchange. Joe calls him out for his sudden attack, but Yuan is stunned that he was able to block his red feather sword with just his hands. The stone demon reads the engraving on the blade and informs him that its true name is Red Collar. Yu wants Joe to use the hula hoop weapon for this fight and throws it to him. He swiftly handles it and tosses it to the illiterate swordsman as it lands on his blade. Yuan returns it and gets offended when Joe starts to hula hoop. He passes it to Yu, who throws it back at the swordsman. He aggressively deflects it out of anger because he has not come to play around. The bladed hoop travels at a great speed and cuts Yu. Everyone rushes to her side as Joe gets livid. He tries to get to her, but Yuan stands in his way. The swordsman pauses for a moment when he senses Joe's aura. Ren already knows that his pupil has lost control, and in that instant, Joe closes the distance between him and Yuan. He throws a body punch that the illiterate narrowly blocks with his blade, but he still gets pushed back. Ren stops Joe from continuing his assault as he instructs him to calm down. Joe comes back to his senses and sees that Yu is fine, as she is more worried about her broken pancakes than her shoulder wound. The stone demon is starting to feel guilty when Yuan starts to cough up natural ketchup as he took internal damage from the punch. The ladies of the city begin to treat Joe like the villain by throwing food at him for harming their new idol. After a short while, he is covered in a mountain of scraps and is stunned that the people he lives with have turned on him so quickly. Xiang is the only one who tries to protect him, but the pelting of food gets so bad that even their idol takes a watermelon to the head. Joe can see that Yuan is a pure martial artist and accepts a rematch when he promises to win the next time they fight. Yuan leaves without interacting with his new fangirls, which only makes them crazier. he spots Lu and his men in the bushes. The bandit leader is stunned that someone as strong as Yuan was defeated so badly, but some would say that he was the real winner because the group of ladies chase after him like he's a prime 2012 Justin Bieber. Lu pretends to be a monk again when Zhou spots them. The stone demon apologizes again, but that is interrupted when the boss of the other sect confronts the bandit leader while also threatening to destroy the Rentian sect. Zhou has an irritated look on his face after hearing that. He ends up beating them and getting them arrested by the government. An official formally thanks Ren for his services and even gives some gifts. Lu is on edge, hoping that his monk cover doesn't get blown since they are the real criminals. Later that night, Zhou meets up with Yu to help him find love. He is a little disheartened when he realizes that she has taken him to the biggest pleasure house in the whole city. He tries to hide his face as he enters to the warm welcome. The stone demon also figures that she brought him to this establishment to have his fate read. As he passes through the halls, he meets Yuan, who has also come to have his fate told to him. Their conversation is interrupted when Zhou spots a lady behind a fan. From what he can see, he feels like she might be the one. Sadly, the fan comes down to reveal a woman with a face like an old lady boy from Thailand. Zhou loses all hope, and the old lady also berates him for not being a paying customer. He is saved when Yu calls him up to meet Nalan the Oracle for free. Yuan overhears and calls him a shameless hypocrite. All the while, it is revealed that Xiang noticed that something has been wrong with Zhou recently, so she has decided to follow him to get more information. She is devastated that he came to such an establishment and thinks of a whole situation where he meets his true love in there and starts a family, leaving her out. Xiang's nightmare is stopped when Ren taps her shoulder. She snaps at him, but he tells her that he was only conducting a wellness check. The Grandmaster gets upset, but she apologizes and explains the situation to him. He decides to enter to make sure that his top disciple doesn't make a mistake when it comes to love, but he turns away from the entrance because he's too embarrassed to go in. During that interim, Zhou gets nervous waiting and starts to overthink about his appearance. He gets more flustered when Nalan calls to him, so he overhypes himself when giving his introduction. The stone demon is taken aback by how beautiful Nalan is when she comes out. He blushes a little when she calls him handsome. Yu puts Zhou's case forward about how he wants to find love and marriage to the Oracle. Yuan manages to sneak into the meeting and introduces himself. He states that he also came for advice. Nalan informs him that there are no shortcuts to martial arts, so he must keep on trying to pass through his roadblock. The illiterate swordsman interprets this as him needing to continually challenge Zhou till he defeats him. Zhou is told that what he's looking for is right in front of him. He looks at Yu as she cluelessly eats a pastry. However, the idiot turns to Yuan in horror, thinking that his fate is tied to the swordsman. From their reactions, Nalan wonders if the two men understand her reading. Meanwhile, Ren and Xiang find a respectable way to enter the establishment. Xiang is disguised as a servant. The Grandmaster quickly abandons her when his convictions falter. Xiang gets embarrassed and tries to run out, but she is dragged into a room by Fan, who shows interest, but she punches him in the face. The guy gets annoyed and pulls out a gun on her. His acquaintance doesn't want their shady business deal to get exposed, so he excuses himself. Ren's side quest doesn't last long when he's kicked out of the room for being a bad board games player. Back upstairs, the lads are still trying to process their readings, but that comes to an end when they hear female screams coming from below. Zhou jets down to find Xiang beating Fan, but she tries to behave like the damsel in distress by making Fan point the gun at her when she sees Zhou. He's confused to see her at such a place, but before she can fully explain, government officials bust in when they are tipped off about a lead on the case they are investigating. They instruct all the men to squat outside with their hands on their heads. Zhou is stunned to see Ren in the lineup, but the master is so ashamed that he tells his star pupil that he has the wrong guy. The captured men are told that a habitual criminal has stolen the belly bands of some ladies. The victims are brought out to inspect the suspects. They start with Ren and assume that he is guilty given how crusty and old he is. Zhou catches their attention when he expresses his shock that his master could be capable of such a thing. The ladies also judge his appearance and also assume that he must be guilty too. However, their tune completely changes when they get to Yuan. They berate the officials for arresting him and assure him that they believe that he is innocent because they are all attracted to him. They even promise to get him released, but he just wants the women to leave him alone. The master and student are salty that Yuan is getting special attention from the ladies. Zhou can't believe his eyes when he notices a piece of the belly band hanging from his master's sash. The officers give the captives a chance to get some food. Zhou starts to cry when he recalls all the lessons his master taught him. He doesn't want to see Ren punished, so he gets close to him and pushes the belly band back into his sash so that it is hidden. Zhou falls in love at first sight when he meets a female sergeant called Ji, and she seems to be a fan of Zhou. The stone demon gets flustered and falls on her when he tries to introduce himself. As he apologizes for his blunder, some officers bring Fan as their culprit. He thinks that he has been arrested for having the gun, but he protests the accusation that he also stole the belly bands. He ends up accepting the fact that he was disturbing public order. Ji apologizes to the master and student for the misunderstanding. Joe's heart starts to race when Ji asks him to meet at the mirror lake outside the city. Xiang gets furious that the man she likes is about to go on a date. The day of the meeting comes, and Ji is a little stunned to see him in a traditional warrior's outfit. She has a positive reaction to it, which makes him happy that he listened to his master's advice. The two head back to the sect to meet with Ren. Xiang brings some tea for their guest. She gets annoyed thinking that Joe is about to get married to Ji and makes a weird gesture that makes everyone look at her like she is a weirdo. Ji reveals why she wanted to meet with Joe. The government is understaffed, and she would like to have a trustworthy sect to help them pick up on the slack. Ren feels sorry for Joe that this whole thing had nothing to do with her being romantically interested in him, but he gives his top student a chance to win her heart by recommending him to help Ji with her work. She excitedly holds his hand that she gets such a capable asset. Xiang almost breaks the tray as she channels her frustrations into it. The stone demon later meets with Ji to start his work. He is motivated to aid in getting their city rid of the bad guys. Joe is introduced to the rest of her unit. He quickly realizes that the reason her unit feels so overwhelmed is because they are getting involved with things that don't require their attention. For example, helping an old woman cross the road or locking down the whole city because one lady lost her handkerchief. Joe continues to patrol with Ji, and she thanks him again for the help. She reveals that she is in law enforcement because her father was a thief who lost his life to the government. She wanted this job to make criminals turn over a new leaf. Her narration of her backstory ends when she spots a local bully called Shui in the city. This is strange because the guy is normally in the countryside, and he has committed many crimes. He is also wanted by the imperial court for his illegal activities. Ji has no intention to let him escape. She is a little hesitant because she heard that Shui has been getting help from the snake sage, who has a bad reputation and is notorious for being good at using poison. The sage's whereabouts are unknown, and they don't know his face. Ji marks the location of their target so that the other officials from the government surround the area when they see it. The duo proceed into the pub to further investigate and overhear Shu's conversation with the sage. The village criminal tells his mentor about his business idea to start a snake farm, because their meat is becoming very popular recently. He wants the sage's knowledge about how he tends to snakes so that they can partner up and make a fortune. Ji tries to get closer to hear more, but she does it in the most obvious way possible. Even her targets get uncomfortable when she rolls across the floor to their location. The criminals freeze for a moment and pretend that they didn't see her. Ji returns to her table and takes a sip of Joe's tea because she has finished her own. The loveless loser retrieves his cup because if he drinks from the same spot as Ji, it is like he has given her an indirect kiss. He clearly took inspiration from R. Kelly. The weirdo smiles at the cup, happy that such an opportunity has come. A message from the government is sent to the duo via throwing knife. Joe deflects it, thinking that it was an assault on them. Sadly, the blade bounces off the walls and hits the sage in the head. Shui gets enraged because the sage was his uncle, so he orders his two bodyguards to deal with the duo. Ji tells Joe to go get backup while she holds off the big guys, but she gets taken out with one shot as soon as she dashes in. The stone demon still holds the cup that has his first kiss on it, but he uses his other hand to catch Ji. Shui launches an axe, forcing Joe to block with his cup hand. The extra tension makes him squeeze too tight, causing the cup to break. He loses his temper and beats the criminals. Ji thanks him for the help, but he just wants her to drink from the new cup he's holding. Meanwhile, Sui is captured and taken away, but the officers feel like they are forgetting something. They brush it off, but their intuition was right because they forgot to also apprehend the sage, as the knife only knocked him out. The following day, Joe wakes up with high spirits and informs Ren that he's heading out to help Ji solve some more cases. Xiang is upset because she doesn't want him to get too close to the sergeant. The master is just happy that this leaves him free to play his board games. Joe hops down the mountain with his breakfast in his mouth, excited to see Ji. They meet sooner than expected when the sergeant's horse almost tramples over him, but he manages to hold it off. She picks him up, and as they head to work, Joe thinks about some of the unsuccessful interactions he has had with some of the people they were supposed to be helping. He hopes that he can do something to impress her on this theft case. They arrive at Yu's house to Joe's surprise. He wonders if her father named Hong filed a report. His confidence increases because if that is the case, he's hoping that he will say positive things about him. He prays that this will help win Ji's heart. That doesn't go to plan when Hong does the exact opposite by calling the stone demon a criminal. Hong sits and informs them about his missing axe heads. Joe gets nervous and basically denies exactly what happened to the axes without being asked a question. This only makes Ji and Hong suspicious. They move on to interrogate some witnesses, but in the end everyone points to Joe as the thief. He reminds Yu of the axes she melted from her dad's workshop. He's trying to cover for her because he is worried that she might go to jail. Yu doesn't think that it's such a bad deal because this means that she could get free food for the rest of her life. Joe is handcuffed by a disappointed Ji. He tries to explain, but Yu comes forward and reveals what really happened. The stone demon gets moved that she was willing to defend him. She reminds him that it's for the free food. Hong still blames Joe and wants him to be arrested. He somehow manages to avoid jail time and later skips to work one day because he thinks that G has finally asked him out after he helped solve so many cases. He bumps into G again, which just makes his day better since this means he gets to ride into town with her. However, his plan is ruined when it is revealed that Yu got to her first, so she's getting the lift. The trio arrives in town where it is revealed that Joe is not good with horses and doesn't even know how to ride one after falling off a horse when he was a kid. He landed in a cave where he found a secret book on how to heal the bald. They walk through the market having small talk when Joe is suddenly attacked by some snakes, but he vanquishes them. Fang the Snake Lord comes out impressed by Joe's skills. He is the master of the Snake Sage, and he's content that his student lost to a worthy opponent. The sage is wheeled out in a vegetated state. Ji immediately apprehends the sage when his identity is confirmed. She praises Fang for his good work, but the Snake Lord makes it clear that he has come for revenge. He throws a smoke bomb so that he can attack from a hidden place, but Joe showcases his skills when he blows away the smoke, along with the snakes that Feng was trying to unleash on them. The shockwave also leaves the Snake Lord defeated and disheveled. The stone demon is later hit with another blow to his non-existent love life when he gets word that Ji is leaving the city and is going to the capital. She got a raise after all the good work she has been doing lately. The sergeant thanks Joe for all his help. She is sad to leave since they have only just started to know each other. Joe congratulates her and says goodbye. He asks her if she has ever thought about who she is going to marry. Ji honestly lets him know the topic has not crossed her mind because all that she is focusing on is on how to be the best sergeant. He just hopes that she doesn't forget about them when she gets to the capital. Yu listens in on their goodbye conversation, and she can see that Joe is going to need help to recover from this heartbreak. It is also revealed that she got bitten by one of the Snake Lord's creatures, which seems to be poisoning her. Meanwhile, Joe has taken some time to himself in the mountain to cry over the departure of Ji. Yuan soon arrives and challenges him to a fight, but Xiang comes in and kidnaps him to a different location before Joe takes notice. She begins to cry and get angry that Joe is sad only because Ji left. She soon realizes that she isn't acting like a proper lady, so she runs off. Yuan sits there blushing that a woman has shouted at him, and he seems to like it. Elsewhere, Grandmaster Ren and the rest of the town people come to encourage Joe not to be heartbroken and should instead follow his feelings and run after Ji. He becomes happy thinking that they care about him, but in reality, they just want to get rid of him so that they can have things their way. His students want to take a break from training, while Grandmaster Ren wants to play his card games. He soon leaves with Yu, who is giving him a lift on horseback since he doesn't know how to ride. She tells him that Ji will be departing in the afternoon on boat, based on the information she gathered the previous day. As they ride, Yu tells him that she is feeling a little bit dizzy, but they still carry on. They arrive close to the harbor and Joe can see from a distance that Ji hasn't yet left. He calls out to her. However, when she turns around to look, she doesn't see them because Yu fell off the horse along with Joe. He recovers and is afraid that Yu's father will send him to the afterlife for causing harm to his daughter. When he takes a closer look at her, he sees that she has been poisoned, so he rushes her back to the village despite Yu telling him to go to speak to Ji before the boat departs. After arriving at the clinic, the doctor tells him that all she needs is some food because the girl is starving. The doctor didn't even know she was bitten. While Joe goes to fetch her some food, her father comes in after hearing about the emergency and reminds her that she is supposed to be eating 6 times a day. Yu asks about Joe's whereabouts thinking that he left to chase Ji down. But when he comes back with her favorite food, her father is angry that he has returned to see his daughter, but the girl is glad that Joe is being so kind and tells them to stop fighting. The following day, Joe resumes his normal activities by unapologetically training his students to the maximum that one of them faints from exhaustion. He has them running laps, and even Grandmaster Ren thinks that he is pushing them too hard. The Grandmaster noticed that since Ji's departure, Joe has been training extra hard day and night, but the only issue is that he has dragged all of his juniors into his level of intense training. And because of Joe's heartbreak, Grandmaster Ren hasn't played cards for 3 days straight. In his frustration, he remembers that he got an invitation to a cultural festival, so he hands over the poster telling Joe that he can go as a representative of their sect. Joe refuses because the distance is too far, but when Ren tells him he may find himself a beautiful wife because all the females will show interest in their sect thanks to their fame, he decides to go. He travels with Yu, who is carrying items to that location. As he runs alongside the carriage, she begins to admire him, but their attention is taken when Yuan emerges from the sack of goods demanding to battle Joe. But the stone demon is too fast for him, and he ends up falling to the floor from exhaustion. Later that evening, they find a place to rest for the night and take shelter from the rain. Joe sits by himself and remembers that the last time he went on a trip with Yu was when they were kids. She used to make fun of him a lot. and they were good friends. Joe says that she has not changed a bit, but when he opens his eyes, he notices her beauty and cannot believe this is the same Yu he always knew. But when she takes a bite of her food, he is glad that she is still the same girl from his childhood. They rest up for the night and arrive at the festival the following day. They report to one of the organizers, who tells them that he has never in his life heard of the Rentian sect. He also tells them that they do not even have an extra booth for them to use, but he does direct them to an empty corner which they can use. When they arrive to see the spot, Joe realizes that his master has lied to him yet again, because their sect isn't famous at all. We cut to Grandmaster Ren, who is playing cards with his friends. He reveals that he didn't actually get an invitation to the festival. All he did was pick up a random poster that had nothing to do with him. All the while, Joe and the rest have set up their booth, hoping to spread the martial arts style of the Rentian sect. One person looks through their training manual and is not impressed with the content, especially considering that they are selling it for 10 coins. The whole morning goes by, and they are still yet to sell a single book. Yu sees a large crowd around a booth and points it out to Joe, who goes to take a look. He thinks that the people are selling incredibly valuable things for them to be so popular. However, when he takes a look, the content is perverted and not aligned with his high moral values. After noticing some of how the others are bringing in people, he believes that the only way to get a large crowd is to have some sort of advertisement. Soon after, he gets an invitation from a different sect asking them to come see their show. He likes their marketing strategy, so he decides to go take a look. When they arrive, there is a large number of humans, mostly consisting of males, shouting and cheering as the female group perform a musical number. Yu gets an idea of dressing up Joe in female clothes so that they can also promote just like the other group. Joe, of course, isn't happy about this, but he is being forced into doing it. While distributing the flyers, he spots 2 people he knows and is afraid that if they catch him out, he will never hear the end of this embarrassment. So to avoid being identified, he makes a run for it while doing a handstand which hides his face very well. As he makes his way back to his room, Xiang, who has traveled, spots him and mistaken him for an actual woman. She becomes extremely jealous, thinking that this person is in a relationship with Joe, so she follows him back to a building and listens in. She hears 2 people talking and breaks in to insult the woman for being with Joe. However, all she sees is Yuan and Joe, which leaves her even more confused. The following day, Joe has a positive energy filled with hopes of being successful with attracting a big crowd. A huge group of people come rushing over. However, they aren't coming to him. The men are running to catch a glimpse of a lady named Bai Jin, who they regard as extremely beautiful and charming. Although she likes the attention, she finds it too boring and was hoping to bump into people who will look at her differently. Bai Jing and her assistant spot Yuan, who looks lost, so they go over to help him. But when he doesn't even acknowledge them and gives them the cold shoulder, they become offended and shocked to their bones. Yuan finally arrives at Joe's location, and a strange lady has come to collect all of Joe's books because she needs it as toilet paper. The stone demon tells her to stop right there, but she reminds him that he has advertised the books as free, so she is taking all the liberties. Bai Jing also arrives at the booth after following Yuan. She manages to save Joe's books from being used as toilet paper by demonstrating with water that the ink and paper in the reading material isn't suitable for ass wiping. The stone demon is extremely grateful for her quick thinking and elegance, so he introduces himself to her. She isn't surprised that he is smitten by her because this is how all men behave towards her. However, when she looks at Yuan's direction, the guy doesn't care one bit, which makes her angry. Nevertheless, she picks up one of the books and is impressed by how well it is written, though she points out within herself that this level of detailed writing cannot benefit someone like her, who has no experience in martial arts since it is too complex. When Yuan the illiterate hears that she understood the opening, he challenges her to a fight, thinking that only masters in martial art can comprehend what was written. He studied day and night and couldn't grasp the meaning. She refuses the challenge, so Yuan humbly asks her to train him instead. Bai Jing feels like she has no choice, so they all go to a secluded place in the forest so she can teach him without the public seeing. From the display, it is clear she has zero knowledge in martial arts, but Yuan is too dense to notice. Bai Jing is glad that none of her admirers were there to see her embarrassing display, but she is shocked when they spawn out of nowhere and begin to clap for her. The crowd know that her moves were ugly and lacked any proper techniques, but they admired her spirit and willingness to try. Bai Jing becomes embarrassed and runs off with her assistant. Joe uses this opportunity to distribute the books to the people, and they seem to really enjoy the content. Joe and the others return to the festival location and see a huge group of people gathered around a stage to witness a master in the martial art world. His performance will be calligraphy while being blindfolded. The female music group are also on stage to make it more entertaining. Xiang has somehow found her way as a drummer when she was accidentally misidentified as a band member, because she decided to change her clothes so that Joe would take notice of her. The performance begins, and Joe can tell by the movement of the martial artist that he is impressive, but due to the wild swings of his brush, the ink goes flying everywhere and into the eyes of Xiang, who runs away because she is being laughed at by the crowd. The ink also finds its way into the eyes of all the other people including Joe, and by the time the performance is over, every one of them is on the floor legally blind with ink. Yu takes Joe to get his eyes cleaned, and as soon as he opens his viewing hole and sees her in front of him, he becomes flustered, and his heart begins to beat faster and faster. It crosses his mind that perhaps it is Yu who is the woman for him. His thinking is interrupted when his eyes begins to burn. Turns out that Yu was using horse water to clean the ink off, so she runs away to get clean water. All the while, Xiang is still running from the embarrassment she felt when everyone was laughing at her. She somehow runs into the back of Joe and places her hand gently on his back, glad that she has found some sort of comfort. Since Joe's optical holes are still impaired, he thinks that the person behind him is Yu, so he asks her if she also likes him. When Xiang hears this, she becomes heartbroken and pushes the guy to the floor before running off crying. It turns out that Yu was hiding behind a tree and witnessed the whole thing. Later that night, Yu curls up in the bed feeling sad. Joe turns up at her front door to ask her what their relationship is. Yu puts him in the family zone when she tells him that he will always be her brother in her heart. Joe is devastated to hear this and walks off wishing her a good night. Yu sits there in her bed crying. It seems like she lied about her real feelings after finding out that Xiang also likes Joe. Some time passes, and Joe has returned from the festival. He has been sent on a mission with Xiang to exorcise a demon which has been hunting a school. Xiang is so happy to be accompanying him, and she only got to go after she beat up everyone who volunteered to go with Joe. When they arrive, the man explains that weird things have been happening, and even after school, it has been reported that there was a strange ghost hanging upside down from the ceiling. After listening to the complaints, Joe sets up a trap in hopes of catching the monster alive, but the man reminds him that it is a ghost and not a monster. Before the class starts, the students feel a presence, so they all look up and see a pair of eyes looking at them through the ceiling. Xiang gets ready to engage it, but Joe tries to stop her and accidentally sets off the trap on himself. The damage causes the roof to fall through, and Yuan emerges from the rubble, which leaves Joe confused. After the commotion is over, they go outside, and Yuan explains that all he wanted to do was study, and that is why he's been on the roof looking in. Joe decides to strike a deal with him by saying that he will teach him how to read in exchange for Yuan educating him on how to be popular. After solving the issue, he returns to Grandmaster Ren with a bill for the damaged roof, and the master is not happy to receive this hefty bill. Joe later lies in bed trying to recover from his injuries after the accident at the school. He has a wonderful dream that Ji, Yu, Xiang, and Bai Jing confess their feelings for him at the same time, but it takes a horrible turn for the worse when they put him in the family zone and say that they are all his long-lost sisters. He quickly wakes up from that nightmare and is grateful that he is in his room and no one heard him regarding his dream. But unfortunately for him, 4 humans are standing there and they witnessed everything. He brushes it off and asks about the well-being of Yuan. Xiang remembers that she forgot to give him his medicine, so she goes over to see him. As soon as she enters, he grabs the bottle and starts to down the medicine, but she tells him that it is for external use, so he tries to cough it out, but it is too late because the medication is dancing all over his taste buds and stomach. Xiang orders him to get ready so that she can apply the ointment, so as he takes his top off, she slaps him thinking the guy had ulterior motives, but all he was doing was following her orders. Nevertheless, she applies the medicine after giving him another slap. She informs him that her family are in the herbal business, so she's the right person for this. She also indirectly hints for Yuan to suggest her as a wife to Joe. When he figures out that she likes the stone demon, the woman becomes red with embarrassment and denies liking Joe at all. She even goes as far as to say that she hates him. Unlucky for her, Joe was just passing outside the door and heard everything, which makes him emotional, since he thought that she was the only one who had zero hatred towards him. The following day, Yuan takes him out to meet some girls for marriage as promised in their deal of teaching him how to be popular with the females. Joe thinks this is the wrong time to be doing this as he's stuck in a wheelchair and doesn't think any female will be interested. He's right, because all the ladies rush to Yuan and knock Joe out of the way onto the floor like he's some useless piece of trash. The postman sees him on the floor and hands him over a letter which states that his childhood friend named Liao Ji is finally coming back after 8 years. Joe has finally recovered somewhat and remembers the pact of brotherhood him and his childhood friends swore when they were kids. They both enrolled as the first and second disciple of the Ren Tian sect, but it wasn't long after until Liao Ji was shipped off for a while as payment for Grandmaster Ren's debt. But of course, Joe and his friend do not know this. The stone demon finally arrives at the temple and spots a group of people gathered. He goes over and sees a new face, but the person looks nothing like Liao Ji. As he questions his master if this really is his friend, Joe hears a voice calling him from behind. He turns around and sees his loser friend standing there. The two of them run towards each other and hold hands in a way I can only describe as fruity behavior. Some of the females around are not impressed with what they are seeing and call their behavior cringe and weird. Grandmaster Ren breaks up their reunion to introduce his new foreign disciple named Layson, and he asks Joe to look after the guy. Liaoji becomes jealous when he sees that all the females are gravitating towards the new guy and not him, so he comes up with a plan to also be popular with the ladies. Him and Joe transform their look to match the foreigner's blonde hair, but the women in town only see them as disgusting. Layson soon joins them and wonders what they are doing, and not long after, two females notice the trio as foreigners and express interest to show them around the town. Liaoji and Joe think that their plan is finally working, so they follow the ladies into the forest. As they walk, Joe notices Yu approaching, so before she can recognize him, he quickly takes her out and runs away with her. Liaoji decides to follow, which leaves Layson alone with the two women. Yu wants to know what Joe is up to, but before he can explain, she walks away because she knows he isn't up to anything bad. Liaoji soon catches up, and the two are approached by officers who warns them not to wander outside the town because foreigners are being abducted. They realize that Layson might be in trouble, so they rush over to their agreed meeting point where they find a cloth from one of the females. They both take a whiff and collapse to the floor due to the sleeping potion from the cloth. Meanwhile, somewhere high up in the mountains, Layson has been captured along with a friend of his by the Black Axe Gang. The leader, who was one of the females who tricked him, gives him a chance to escape if he can beat up her men. Although he has only been learning martial arts for a few days, Layson is confident in his abilities and orders the men to come at him all at once. He takes a stance and releases some energy which gets the bandits shook a bit. However, they realize that he's all bark and no bite, so they jump him. Elsewhere at the entrance of the gang's camp, Joe and Liaoji have been brought in. When the second-in-command sees Joe knocked out, he recognizes him right away as the stone demon who humiliated him, so he takes advantage of the situation and attacks, but his weapon breaks, which wakes Joe up. Lu quickly hides before he is spotted by the stone demon. We cut back to Layson, who is getting a proper beating, but he is saved when Joe comes to his rescue and single-handedly whoops every single bandit in the camp. The lady leader escapes and bumps into Lu. He tells her that they can start all over again with just the two of them, and he even admits his love for her. But in the middle of pouring out his heart, Joe sees him and asks him to capture the bandit leader for him, since Joe still thinks the guy is a monk. Lu cannot take the risk of being arrested, so he throws the woman he just said he loves under the bus. The authorities arrive moments later and capture them all, including their leader. Joe thanks Lu for his help and sets off while the fake monk cries and considers becoming a real monk. We get a glimpse of what Yuan has been up to, and he just finished defeating a man who tells him about the fox spirit that resides on the Cloud Mountain. The guy refuses to acknowledge Yuan as the strongest until he can beat that spirit. Yuan therefore embarks on the journey to find this fox in the mountain. It isn't long until he spots a tail and goes for the attack, but the fox retaliates with a punch. So when he stands ready to engage it in battle, he sees that the spirit is actually Xiang, who is dressed up as a fox spirit. She explains that she heard Joe and Liaoji talking about looking for a fox spirit in the mountain to marry, so she dressed up like this so that he wouldn't be disappointed if they couldn't find one. But Yuan knows that she did it hoping that Joe will like her and marry her. He wants to know why she likes him so much, and she explains that the stone demon is extremely gentle and a reliable person. She tells the story of how she used to get bullied, so she ran to the mountains while it was snowing and almost died. Joe is the only one who went out to find her, and after he saved her, he told her that it was her crying that led him to her location. She took this as a compliment, and since that day, she has been in love with the guy. All the while, Joe and Liaoji have gone out to get some food before they go out looking for the fox. Yu finds them in town and presents Joe with an armor she made for him. Although he doesn't like it and it looks like a spray can, he lies saying it amazing because this is her first time making armor. The trio make their way to the forest mountain, and Yuan spots Joe and mistaken him for a bucket spirit, so he attacks him and sends Joe flying down the mountain. Yu and Liaoji explain to him that it was Joe he just attacked and not a monster. The two men worry that he might be dead, but Yu assures them that he will be fine since this is not his first time falling down a cliff. Somewhere in the forest, Bai Jing is also looking for the fox after hearing the rumors. She has set up a trap using meat to lure it out. A random white fox appears, and she is so excited to see such a cute animal. But then, it looks like her meat has also pulled in a tiger. She quickly gets up and begins to run. I don't know how she managed to run away from a tiger, but she's doing it. She runs all the way to the edge of a cliff and is stuck. The tiger appears right behind her and is ready to eat her for dinner. Luckily for her, Joe falls from the sky and lands on the tiger, which incapacitates it. After recovering from his dizziness, he finally sees Bai Jing and is surprised that she is in such a place. She is so glad that he is here and calls him her hero. Joe is embarrassed because of how he looks, so he removes the armor out of frustration. The heaviness of it causes the platform to crumble, so he and Bai Jing fall from it, but he manages to pluck her from the air and land safely on the ground. The lady is so impressed with his abilities, so she compliments him on how amazing he is. Before he can take it all in, a piece of the armor falls on his head, knocking him down. He notices that she is bleeding on the knee, so he dresses it up for her. He also carries her on his back since she refused to walk, despite him providing her with a walking stick. As they try finding their way to a doctor, she thinks within herself that perhaps Joe might be the right guy for her. Meanwhile, Liao Ji and Yuan are thinking on how they can rescue Joe, but they are shocked when he climbs back up carrying a lady on his back. He explains the situation to them. Bai Jin notices a connection between Joe and Yu and questions what their relationship is. They quickly say that they are like brother and sister. However, Bai Jin knows that there is more to their relationship and finds it interesting. That brings the episode to an end.